So Gaetano, great to have you in the Spectrami office in the UK.
Thank you for the invitation.
Please can you introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about Datera?
Yeah, I'm the sales director for Datera in EMEA. So I started 2016, coming from other storage experience. Yeah, so Datera is a US company. So we are based out of Santa Clara in California.
Yeah.
We have been founded in 2016. So we are a software-defined storage, scale-out, distributed. Yeah.
Okay, and software-defined storage. What does that mean?
Yeah, and we have actually two level of definition. So we like really to talk about software-defined storage in a sense that you can really define how your storage is working based on some policies. So changing eventually some software, you can really change the behavior of the storage underneath.
Okay.
So that's our definition. Of course, associated to that comes also the fact that you can use commodity hardware. So you can have, the software running on standard x86 servers from different vendor for different eventually generation using different media, and you can mix and match them. Yeah? But the point that I think is really important is the fact that you can, from a software perspective, so with the change of policy, change of eventually sending an API command, you can change the behavior of your storage underneath. So it's really storage as a service.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. So Datera, it's a relatively new company, software-defined storage. But what's the purpose, or what's the goal of Datera? What's it trying to achieve for its customers?
Yeah. So when our founders they first put this concept in place. Of course, we didn't want to be another storage company. So we, based on Silicon Valley, we are based in Silicon Valley. We have seen since the beginning, Amazon, AWS, so Google, how they have changed forever the way we are consuming IT. No, and as our really mission in the early days was really to bring this kind of hyperscale technology to on-prem, so to customers, so to data centers, that they would eventually have the same model as Google, as Amazon, and build their own cloud infrastructure and to manage it as a service.
So the technology that Datera provide is really exciting in the fact that it's almost bringing that public cloud experience of flexibility within a storage platform into the organisation to run in their private cloud. And you've mentioned earlier in the conversations about sort of being hardware agnostic. Please can you tell us a little bit about which hardware platforms you work with? Are there limitations, and where do we get the best results from using Datera?
Yeah, so we typically need x86 standard servers, although we qualify the hardware where we work on, because we want to give the customer really an enterprise grade solution. So our platform will be installed on physical servers. We take over the control of the servers, and basically we take control eventually if there is any firmware upgrade, if there is any evolution in the future, we take it over. It's stuff like rolling upgrade. We do firmware upgrade without any interruption of service. So we really take over, and we need to know exactly what we have underneath, so that we can really serve it as outside, as a service, knowing exactly what resources we have at disposal.
Okay. So you spoke about being able to work on different manufacturers' hardware.
Yeah.
If you were working on a combination of, let's say, HP, Dell EMC, something like that, on those different manufacturers, do we see any performance degradation between different manufacturers, or do you work at a nice even level across all
Yeah,
vendors?
I mean, if you take a server and you take it out and you look what there is inside, there's a certain amount of CPU,
Yes.
certain amount of memory. What we really do, we qualify different server vendors across eventually different generation. And today, as we speak, we have qualified HP, Dell, Supermicro, Lenovo is almost coming, and so more other eventually will come in the future as the customer will ask us. And for each of these server vendor, we have also qualified different kind of medias. So we have qualified eventually, nodes based on SATA flash, on NVMe flash. We have hybrid nodes that are basically having a part of flash and spinning devices, and then we have capacity nodes that are more spinning device heavy, and then we have non-persistent memory nodes. So based on the latest Optane technology from Intel, which is extremely fast, although it's still very expensive. So what you want to do eventually, you want to use it wisely, giving it out to your application only when they need it, and only for that kind of quality of service that requires extremely low latency, for example.
Okay, so you just spoke about different types of storage media within the hardware. Does your software dynamically work out which is the best media for data to be stored on and the applications to run on, or do the users have to be able to manipulate that from a GUI?
No, that's completely automated. So you can specify when you are providing your storage service to your application. You specify some quality of service, and in terms of performance, in terms of IOPS, in terms of even planned snapshots or eventually replications and so on. And then is our software, in this case actually we call it the control plane, which is understanding how to fulfill this quality of service using the resources underneath. So you will build a cluster with different kind of nodes, and then you have this pool of resources that you have to disposal to serve this kind of quality of service.
So it's continually optimizing the environment that's best for the applications and the use. Excellent.
There is one constant actually that we had in mind when developed, is that we need to deal with change during the life of our infrastructure. There is only one constant. So some change will happen. So a disk will fail, eventually a node will fail, something will happen. So Datera is done with really the capability to move stuff around the nodes that are composing the cluster. So eventually you are serving your application outside with 5, 6, 7 nodes, and you want to add more resources, you just plug in another node. You lose a node because it fails in network card or whatever. Our control plane is rebalancing, so reshuffling everything on the remaining node without showing any interruption to the application.
So that's really valuable in scenarios where people are using containers, for example. It means it gives you that complete agility and flexibility around what they're doing in their environment.
Yeah, actually that's a very compelling point, since we look now to this transformational change into the compute, the way we are eventually virtualizing the compute infrastructure. We have been using the last probably 10 years virtual machines, so the virtualization has been a heavily part of our infrastructure. So now there is another capability on the compute side, which is of course containers. And the container, if you compare them with virtual machines, they are much lighter. So they are very
much
small.
More portable, aren't they?
Yeah, portable. They move around. A container pops up in milliseconds. Wherever on the other side you have virtual machines that are, they bring with them an operative system. So when they bring up, it's probably 10 minutes, whatever, to come up. A container is
much
coming
faster.
up, dying, moving around, quickly. So what you need underneath is a storage which is eventually capable to follow this container across the infrastructure. So when you build up, for example, a Kubernetes cluster, you have multiple nodes, and the container can move across all the nodes. If you have a eventually monolithic storage underneath, which is very stuff there, we will not be able to move and follow these containers. If you have a solution like ours, scale out, completely distributed, being able to move and to leverage, to rebalance stuff around, we are exporting eventually one container on one node and serving, from the computer side on the same, let's say, minimal path to minimize the latency. Suppose that the container dies here and pops up here. So what we do, we also move and we follow the container so that we minimize the latency all the time. So continuously rebalancing, continuously, very nicely, making sure that we use the best resources to serve the application wherever it is.
So one thing that we're hearing from customers, that's both end users and channel partners at the moment, is containers, or the move to containers is looking, or it's building momentum, and organisations are looking at how they gain efficiency from containers. But there's clearly a massive investment being made in virtual machines, and whether that be VMware or even Hyper-V or other platforms. Can you work alongside virtualization and containers? Is there a link? Is there a way that Datera adds any value?
Yeah, that's exactly what we. Another thing our developer actually thought when we first developed our platform was that we want to be using standard protocols. So we are using standard iSCSI, for example, and we are one of the creator and maintainer of LIO, which is stuck in the Linux kernel, Linux stack. And actually, on the Datera platform, you can nicely have serving at the same time bare metal, VMware, Kubernetes, OpenStack. Each of them being a tenant. Each of them can be, let's say, assigned a fixed number of resources, like quota, like performance, like even networking. We really kind of segregate and put a clear segregation of resources between tenants, and at the same time you can have eventually bare metal with VMware, with KVM, with Kubernetes or whatever, so on the same platform.
So that's massively advantageous to people looking to move into that space, giving them that flexibility.
Yeah, actually that's very important. We see a lot of our customers starting working on container, but still they have the bulk of their storage on eventually virtualized traditional.
Well, they will do, because that's where they've grown up over the last 10 years of building that estate, and it's not going to disappear overnight.
Yeah, it will be gradual, as in every new introduction of new technology. They will start moving eventually some old application, because the move to container is also a change in how you have developed your application. Container, they were born for microservices. Of course, you need to redefine the way your application works, and this is a process that takes time. With us, our customer, they have the capability to keep working with their traditional workloads while they are starting using also new kind of workloads.
So effectively what you're saying is Datera is allowing for a transformation of people's environments without affecting or requiring further investment in hardware and infrastructure layer.
Indeed, yeah. That's too, I think, for a company like us, a young company coming in the market, you need, of course, to target the existing market while you look for the innovation. If you come in the market with something which is already old, I mean, there is no point to build a startup, right?
No, no.
So you want to really start giving customers the possibility to do stuff today while they are developing their infrastructure for the next 5 years, 10 years.
So, what we've spoken about so far is actually you're a software organisation, yeah, and it's focusing around driving efficiencies through storage, helping people be more flexible in their environment. But actually, if I wanted to buy your product as an appliance, is that something that's possible today?
Yeah. Actually, I mean, we are, as you said, we are a software company. So we have all our developers are focusing in developing our software. Of course, as we said before, we want to run on some defined, qualified, tested hardware. And the way now we bring this software to customer can be software only. So we give the software to our customers, and they, based on our compatibility list, they will build their own infrastructure.
Yeah.
Or because there are also customers that they are doing this transformation also from an operational perspective.
Yeah.
So they still want to have the infrastructure, turnkey in a kind of nice, complete fashion, with software pre-installed on the hardware, and you just plug it in and then it works. No? We do also that if customer. It's a kind of, it's a service that we sell, but our core, our technology is the software, it's not the commodity hardware where it runs.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I guess as a startup and as a software company, and one of the reasons that Spectrami's chosen to work with you is that actually you want to engage with customers and work and build solutions for them. So it makes sense that the collaboration between you and the customer to build what's right, if that's software, or if they need the appliance, and let's build them the appliance.
Sure, that's the flexibility. As the customer is evolving from the business perspective, of course, the same evolution will come also from the infrastructure while you are serving the business. And while you are growing, while you are developing, you don't want to be locked in with some specific, eventually, hardware platform. You want to be looking how the market develops. We were mentioning before the Optane technology from Intel. So today is very expensive. If you remember the early stage of Flash, when we were first introducing the NVMe PCIe cards, they were extremely expensive. And the price over time, has really nicely went down, no?
Yeah.
And eventually the same it will happen in the future with other technology. So our point is, start with what you need now. And while you grow, keep adding in the piece of technology that you need to serve your current workload. And you can keep doing it very, very, granularly.
Yeah, so it's very elastic in the way in which you can,
sure.
in the same way that people want the elasticity of that public cloud. The fact that you can just go up and down. What you're saying is you're bringing that flexibility into people's data center, which leads into a nice point of actually, we're talking today about how your software works in the data center in somebody's own environment. How do you integrate with public cloud?
Yeah, that's another very interesting consideration that we have also done probably in the last year, 1.5-2 years. We really see across, it's not only Europe, across the world, that the future will be really hybrid. It's the fact that the public cloud is very present, almost
it has its
in
place. Everybody's there to some extent. With software as a service, you can't avoid it, can you? So people have to have workloads there in some form.
Yeah. So public cloud in terms of Amazon, Google, some local public cloud vendor,
and Alibaba's moved in, announced
coming,
in the UK now.
Whoever, this will be. I'm pretty sure will be in the strategy of every enterprise. So they will be looking in this kind of resources. The point is that you want to consider if you want to put everything in the cloud, or you want to still have something on your premise, you want to have control of your stuff, and eventually how you can mix the two things together. And that's exactly what we do today, giving the customer the possibility to extend their physical Datera cluster into the public cloud, eventually into Amazon, into Google or Microsoft or whatever, even local cloud providers.
Yeah.
You know, we can work also with that.
So one of the things that we're hearing from consumers is that the public cloud very much has a place, but it's not as cost effective as sometimes running services in their own data center. Your product, your software is actually making it's easier for people to have scalability in their own data center.
Yeah.
Have you any examples of where you've saved people money from a public cloud to bringing it back in-house?
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's something that we have seen many times. Actually, customers as they start using the public cloud, and then at the end of the month, they got a very very big invoice. You know, they were not expecting eventually some hidden cost of the public cloud. You know, there are many advantages. You know, using the public cloud. The cost is not probably the best one. You know, but as I said before, we really believe that the customer should have the flexibility to decide eventually based on his own expectation, his own business model, where to put his data. And I think that having the control of your own data, so data is really the currency of you know, the future.
Yeah.
So you want to have control of your data. You want to decide what data is important, where you want to have it eventually in-house, and eventually you can extend your infrastructure using dynamically, elastically, only for some short time, eventually to do some disaster recovery or whatever. You can use stuff in the public cloud, but you can decide. That's really the freedom, having this flexibility. That's really what customers are demanding.
So we spoke earlier about how you're predominantly a software provider. As an organisation, you want to sell software. You will bundle that up in an appliance if you want. But if I just want to buy your software, how do I buy that? Is that a perpetual license, or do I have to buy on a subscription basis? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, we have different license modeling. Also from a business perspective, you kind of have to be flexible, to make sure that you follow what your customer needs are.
Well, your software is providing flexibility, so I guess your licensing model has to as well.
If you're a software-defined vendor and you are flexible to adapt yourself, it must come also from a business perspective. And that's come, as we said, from the hardware perspective. You have the freedom to choose, among different, and that's first big. So your CapEx, basically, you have really the possibility, to choose whatever hardware you need. From the software side, actually, we have also two different models. One which is looking more to service provider style, where you eventually don't know where your trip is going. Where are you going? Eventually, tomorrow you can find a customer and you need immediately, to grow your infrastructure of say 70, 80, 100%. So we have a model which is consume based. So we are monitoring the amount of resources that basically the customer is consuming. Eventually, then we have another model which is looking into more traditional way to consume and to buy storage. So we have customers that they have some budget and they want to allocate this budget for the next 3 years. They want to have a kind of very defined cost structure, and then they can buy a subscription model where they buy number of years of license to cover their need. So it's pretty flexible depending on customer needs.
So in summary, what you're saying is that actually you're going to work with the customer to provide them with the right licensing model for their scenario.
Indeed.
And that can be any one of 3 great options, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that leads us on. You mentioned their MSPs, managed service providers, and we're seeing lots of interest from organisations like that who maybe are not the tier one data centres. So I guess we got the public cloud providers. Then in the UK we've got sort of a number of tier one providers who are very well orchestrated at the moment, have built fantastic data centres that are very automated. But there's a level below that who are looking to stay ahead really and maintain competitive advantage. Listening to what you've said today about how this gives flexibility and about people being able to just add additional resources and remove them. Let's go. Compute goes up and down.
Yeah.
You said that you deal with change. How do you help those managed service providers, and is that specifically a target market for you?
Indeed, that's where, as I said in the beginning, that's where we start from. We have seen this great innovation coming from AWS and Google, really revolutioning the way we are consuming IT, and those are the biggest cloud provider we have on the planet. Then you have all a bunch of smaller ones that, if they are not innovating the way Amazon and the way Google is doing, they will be never, competitive with that. So they need to have a similar technology that eventually Amazon and Google and Microsoft and other, large enterprise they have in-house, because they have eventually hundreds of engineers. The smaller service provider, they don't have the capability to cope with these innovations themselves. So they need partners like us, bringing them this innovation, this new platform, to make sure that they can be competitive from a technology perspective, from a cost perspective, with the big players. That's really the beginning was our mission. Of course, among the while we have been growing, we are also serving private cloud deployment with large enterprise customers that they want to behave eventually internally a bit like service provider, and the IT department serving the internal departments like customers.
Well, that's definitely the way things are going, isn't it? You hear the CIOs and CTOs talking about their customers, and they are departments within their organisation. So having that flexibility to cross charge and say you're using this resource and you're using this resource,
Indeed.
charging appropriately, it's really important to them to get that budget.
And our platform it works very nicely with this. You can create really tenants, and the tenants can create sub-tenants. You can really allocate some resources and give to your, DevOps department.
So Gaetano, thank you for your time today. It's been really great to spend some time, ask you some questions, get you to share your knowledge with us, and as the UK distributor, we really look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Actually, I'm really, excited to start working with you guys. We were looking for, help to develop our channel, but the traditional distributor box mover is not really what we were looking for. So you guys are really adding value to our offering. Our technology is very, very innovative. So you need really people that understand the market, understand the value, and help us to bring this technology to our partner and to our end user. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, look forward.
Yeah.